Hello everyone, and welcome. Today, we will be continuing to take a deeper look at the geographical wonders of the state of Oregon. We have done a number of explorations of the cities and of the entire state. But now I want to intersect that with a look at a pamphlet, a booklet really, that I found at an antique store recently. That shows a wonderful place in Oregon that I recommend you visit if you come here. This is Crater Lake National Park. This is the only national park in the state of Oregon. It's not the only place within the National Park Service in the state. Previously, we have seen places within the National Park Service in Pictured Rocks, which is a national lake shore. But this is the crown jewel of the National Park Service system, and that is the national park itself. This booklet is published by, or was published back in the 30s by the National Park Service as part of the United States Department of the Interior. And I'd like to show it off. Before we begin looking at this booklet, I'd like to show a little bit of perspective by giving an understanding of where we are. As we talked about in the video where I explored this map in detail, the great population center for the state is the Willamette Valley out in the west, with some lesser populations along the Pacific coast to the far west, and to the far east in the high deserts. In between these regions is the Cascade Range, the major mountain range in Oregon, as well as Washington to the north. to a lesser extent, British Columbia in Canada to the far north, and the northern portion of California to the south. Also to the south, we get more generally more rugged scenery in the southwest of the state as the Cascade Range tilts to the west and the Coast Range tilts eastward and fills in the land. In this region, still very much within the Cascade Range, is Crater Lake National Park. The centerpiece of the national park is Crater Lake itself, a real lake in the crater of a mountain. For most people visiting the park, they'll come to it from a number of ways. Those that are coming from the populous parts of Oregon, either the people who live there or the people who start their vacations in Oregon, in Portland in general, will come from the north, typically follow Oregon 58, cross the Cascades to US 97. The main alternatives are to arrive at a smaller, large town or small city in the nearby area first, like Medford to the south, up Oregon 62, Klamath Falls and north on US 97, or Bend, and from there south on US 97. Before we return to the booklet, I'll also give us a little highlight of this map, because the booklet is in black and white. And while we have a color map, I'd like for us to be able to take in the blue of Crater Lake. I sure hope this is coming across on YouTube. But this is an intense blue that we see here in the lake. Crater Lake is this blue because it has incredibly clear water, and Crater Lake is notable for a number of reasons, but most notable for being the deepest lake on the North American continent at 1,996 feet of depth. And so what comes of that is a pristine, deep blue. Not quite a navy, but an authentic cerulean. It is quite a marvelous thing to see. And if I manage to find a official pamphlet, an official map of the lake in the future, I will hopefully share it in a future video. While we're looking at color images of the lake, we can see here from this fiery tree that we are likely in late summer to early fall. And I would also like to show in this book about the Northwest that it is still a deep, rich blue. In the winter time. Obviously, there is quite a bit of snow here. We are in the middle of a mountain range, the Cascade Range. So, we definitely get all 4 seasons. However brief some of them might be at Crater Lake. Returning to the booklet, I should know where the map is. But here we are. This is quite a bit more zoomed in compared to the general Oregon map. Here we see the lake at the center. This is the center point, the main attraction of the national park. And the main way that most people get to see the lake is from the Rim Road. Which is a road that circumnavigates the lake. It is only fully open during the summer months. Like I said, the Cascade Range gets all 4 seasons. And so, the Snowy winters are particularly noticeable here, and tend to block the roads at the higher elevations, which is typically not something that is associated with the state of Oregon, because most people know Oregon through Portland. The Portland is down at the bottom of a valley and is much more temperate. The main place for visitors to stay near the lake is at the lodge and the nearby cabins of Crater Lake, which lie around the southern, slightly western end of the rim of the lake. Nearby this point is the one main island in the center, in the interior of the lake, which is Wizard Island. You can kind of see a portion of Wizard Island, well, most of it really, in this color photo. It is this forested area in front of the dry area that forms the rim of the lake. There's also, near the island, a formation under the lake surface that is almost an island, called the Phantom Ship. And it's called that way because in certain ways that the light plays on the surface of the water, the formation seems almost to disappear. The reason that Crater Lake exists, and here of all places, and the reason why it is a crater lake, is because it is a lake in the little crater of what once was a significant, gigantic mountain that went by the name of Mount Mazama. Thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, we suspect, Mount Mazama erupted and completely blew its top off and sprayed its mountain material all throughout the Cascade Range. In its place is the crater, which then filled up with water, and with the continual influx of rain coming from the west. Crater Lake has maintained itself for millennia and is still here to this day. Outside of the actual Crater Lake area, the park also contains a number of small peaks in the general area to which people can hike and around which people can camp. This map is not a hiking map that we're looking at, so few of the hiking trails are listed. Primarily to Mount Scott, out in this eastern portion, out to Union Peak in the southwestern portion, and some trails like up to Castle Crest and the Sun Notch Trail in this area where the Rim Drive backs away from the rim of the lake. But this map is not the only thing inside of this booklet of interest. Obviously, this is a tourist's booklet, and so with it, it contains a lot of important sightseeing information. About places to go, places to hike to, and things to keep in mind when visiting the park. Obviously, we have a table of contents. First, we have a history of the park up to when this booklet was published in the late 1930s. We begin with the first white discoverers of the lake. I say white discoverers and point that out because, of course, the native peoples of Oregon were well aware of the lake before the arrival of settlers. But first, we have John Wesley Hillman, who first saw the lake in 1853. We have the first naming of the lake as Crater Lake in 1869. The first settler name for the lake was in 1865 as Lake Majesty. We have the first image, a daguerreotype, taken by Peter Britt in 1873. And the major event in the park's history was the founding of the national park, created by the U.S. Congress and approved by Theodore Roosevelt in 1902. Ten years later, Crater Lake Lodge was built. And in 1935, 2 years before this booklet was published, we had the first year that roads were open throughout the winter to get to the lake. We then go on to some histories and essays going through the history of the lake and the mountain, and the interactions of people here. We have here a black and white photo of Wizard Island viewed from the west to the east. This essay goes through the geologic formation of Mount Mazama as part of the Cascade Range and the creation of the lake from the eruption of the volcanic Mount Mazama. We then move on to places of interest. Including the Sinnott Memorial, dedicated to a Oregon State Representative, Nicholas J. Sinnott. In recognition to his service as superintendent of the national park. We obviously have the Rim Drive, Wizard Island, the Phantom Ship, and most important spiritually is Lau Rock. this promontory has special significance to the native Klamath people who inhabited the area, particularly as the place where the trickster god of the Klamath people, Lao, is said to live. From my understanding, Lao is not quite a benevolent figure in Klamath mythology, but not quite evil either. But still, Lao's spirit lives within the point. We also have a number of places around the lake to be able to see views of the lake, such as the Watchman, which is where we saw the western view of Wizard Island, Cloud Cap on the eastern rim, and Mount Scott a little far away from the eastern rim. But still accessible to great views of the lake. Outside of points of interest, we also have information about animals in the park. Primarily bear, black-tailed deer, elk, red fox, cougar or mountain lion, wolf, coyote, ground squirrels, and marmots, and pika. We also have additional smaller creatures like the mink, the weasel, and the marten. We have plenty of bird life around the lake with ospreys, gulls, falcons, hawks, ravens, ducks and crows. And for smaller birds, we have bluebirds, Townsend solitaires, Sierra juncos, chickadees, kinglets, robins, wrens, finches, thrushes, warblers, and thrushes, hermit thrush. We do have fish in the lake. though I believe the fish were planted in the lake and are not native to it. They were first brought in by a settler named William Gladstone Steele. While the first fish came from southern Oregon waters, it is not necessarily the case that other fish that have been introduced are also native to southern Oregon. But let's not forget about the plants while talking about animals. Despite being in the near the eastern part of the state, the Cascade Range is still quite forested. We have ponderosa pines, Pinus ponderosa. We have brewer's oak, Quercus breweri. We have madrones. I'm not sure if we have the Latin name of them, but in this book. But we have hemlock, Tsuga hortensiana, lodgepole pine, Pinus contorta, Engelmann spruce, Picea engelmannii, Douglas fir, which in this booklet is Pseudotsuga taxifolia, but I believe in modern taxonomy is Pseudotsuga mingissii. White fir, Abies concolor, which I believe is now Abies alba. Quaking aspens, or timid aspens here, Populus tremuloides. And black cottonwoods, Populus trichocarpa. We also have plenty of wildflowers in the park, including paintbrush, Castanea pinnatorum, prince's pine, Chimaphila umbellata, and snowbrush, Ceanothus vetulinus. We continue on with windflowers, Anemone occidentalis, stone crop, Gormania watsonii, fleabane, erigeron saucuginosus, false hellebore, veratrum viridae, smooth woodrush, juncoides glabratum, low desert alpine, lupinus aridus, raspberry, which is a berry as well as a flower, Rubus laciococcus, currant, Ribus lacustre, bleeding heart, Dicentra formosa, and parrot's beak, Pedicularis racemosa. Moving on from the sites, we have ways to get to and from the park, mostly by automobile, as we covered in our overview of the map. At one point, the Southern Pacific Railroad was also a way to get to the park via stops in Medford and Klamath Falls. And also for the most common way to get most of the way there nowadays, by airplane. It's interesting to note what existed from United Airlines, which it's interesting to think existing back as early as the 1930s, with flights from Los Angeles or New York direct to Medford, potentially with a layover for the New York trip in Portland or Seattle or San Francisco, other large airports. Here in the places to stay section, we do get a black and white photo. Not quite at the best zoom for the video zoom that we have, but an image of the lodge as it existed back in the 1930s. We go through the expenses of traveling to and staying in the park. Including $3 for a room for 2 people, or $5.50 for a single person. With the American plan, which I believe includes food. I will need to check on it, being $3 additional per person higher, with children under 8 years being half cost. The cabins in the area were only $2 per night. Also on the lake shore, which is quite a hike to get down and up. It's amazing to think that there were rowboats that could be hired for 50 cents per hour. They will still allow kayaks on the lake shore, but I suspect that most people who would be visiting the lake would go on one of the guided tours on a motorboat, which are allowed on the lake. Lastly, the booklet here also highlights a number of other National Park Service lands in the nearby area, including the Oregon Caves National Monument, which is a place in the Siskiyou Mountains to the south and west of Crater Lake. And it is often cited as one of the contenders for the next site to become a national park, to be really given the name of national park within the National Park Service. In addition, there is Lava Beds National Monument in California, which continues the legacy of mountain forces and volcanic forces shaping the land of the Cascades. And here at the end, we have a map of the existing sites of the National Park Service, or at least the major sites as they were in the 1930s. We have some major places that are well known, like Rocky Mountain National Park, Crater Lake, as we've seen, Yosemite, and we can also see some of the places that would become national parks. Some of them get called national park projects, like Everglades in Florida, Isle Royale in Michigan, and Big Bend in Texas. I'm sure that we will have a chance to explore much more of this map in the future. All right. I hope that by going through this booklet, you begin to have an appreciation for Crater Lake and being able to see how visiting the park was like during the 60s. Sorry, the 30s. Hopefully, I'll be able to find more of these booklets and we can explore them in future videos. For now, I want to thank you all for watching until the end, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.